Hello there guys, welcome back to another maths video, in particular real analysis. In this video we're going to prove another quality about sequences of real numbers. In particular, we're going to prove that limits of sequences preserve inequalities. That means that suppose that I have two sequences, an and bn, and they're both convergent to alpha and beta respectively. If it is the case that for all n in the natural numbers, an is less than or equal to bn, then it turns out that the limit alpha is less than or equal to the limit beta, which on an intuitive level should make perfect sense. If you have a sequence where the nth term is always less than or equal to the nth term of another one, the thing that it converges to should be less than or equal to the other one as well, right? Makes sense. But we need to prove it. It's an exercise. It's a way to practice. And I've written the definition of convergence once again. So this is what it means for the limit as n approaches infinity of some sequence an to actually be alpha. I've written it right there in quantifier notation. So before we get into the main proof, we need to prove a lemma. And that lemma is going to be as follows. If for all epsilon greater than 0, a minus b is less than or equal to epsilon, then a is less than or equal to b. Hopefully this kind of makes sense. I think on an intuitive level it should make sense. We've actually proven something very similar, which basically was just using an equality rather than an inequality. But we're going to prove this lemma, and it's going to help us in the main proof. It's probably not very obvious how, but it's going to come up in the main proof. So it's going to be very quick because we're just going to use contradiction, and we're going to quickly prove this, and then we can go on to the main proof. So because we're doing a proof by contradiction, we're going to start off by assuming that for all epsilon greater than 0, a minus b is less than or equal to epsilon, but a is not less than or equal to b. A is bigger than b. And we want to see if we can come up with a contradiction from here. And it's going to be nice and simple. There is a trick that we need to use. So we're going to choose a certain value of epsilon because it's for all epsilon. So we can choose specific values. It will still be true. We're going to choose epsilon to be a minus b over 2. Therefore, it must be true, according to our assumption, that a minus b is less than or equal to epsilon, which is a minus b over 2. Bear in mind as well that we are allowed to choose that value of epsilon because it's positive. We've assumed that a is bigger than b, meaning that a minus b over 2 is greater than 0. That's a subtle thing. If it was a negative number, we wouldn't be able to do that because epsilon still has to be greater than 0, but we can do it. So a minus b is less than or equal to a minus b over 2. This is going to give us a bit of an issue in a second. So if we multiply both sides by 2, then we get 2 times a minus b is less than or equal to a minus b. If we take away a minus b from both sides, we get 1 lot of a minus b is less than or equal to 0, which then tells us that a is less than or equal to b. However, we've assumed that a is greater than b. So how can a be greater than b, but also less than or equal to b? Well, it can't. It's a contradiction. So that's a contradiction, which means that the original statement that we were trying to prove is indeed correct because we assumed the opposite and it led to a contradiction. So therefore, for all epsilon greater than 0, if a minus b is less than or equal to epsilon, it means that a is less than or equal to b. Again, not obvious right now why we're doing that, but you will see in a couple of minutes. Let's get on to the main proof now. So we're going to start off by looking at this quantity alpha minus beta. Now, this is where the lemma comes in. My objective in this proof is to show that for all epsilon greater than 0, alpha minus beta is less than or equal to epsilon. If I can do that, it means that alpha is less than or equal to beta by the lemma. That's why we have the lemma. So I'm going to start off with alpha minus beta. I want to show this is less than or equal to epsilon. That's going to be my objective. So I'm going to do a trick. I'm going to rewrite alpha minus beta as alpha minus an plus an minus bn plus bn minus beta. So I've kind of added 0. I've subtracted an, I've added it back. I've subtracted bn and I've added it back. I'm allowed to do that. I've not changed the value of it because every time I've taken something away, I've just added it back on. But the benefit of this is I can say that this is less than or equal to the following. The absolute value of alpha minus an plus an minus bn plus the absolute value of Bn minus beta. So what I've done there is I've selectively put moduluses around the first couple of terms and the last couple of terms. Of course, that can only make everything bigger. So I can definitely have that it's less than or equal to what I've written here. Now, if I just let epsilon be greater than 0, I'm now going to use the fact that these things converge. They converge to alpha and beta. So it is possible for me to choose some capital N, I'm going to call it capital N1 in the natural numbers, such that for all n bigger than or equal to capital N1, the distance between an and alpha is of course less than epsilon. It's possible for me to do that, of course, because we know that an converges to alpha. It's also possible for me to find some capital N2, let's say, in the natural numbers, such that for all n bigger than or equal to n2, the distance between Bn and beta is less than epsilon for the exact same reason, because Bn converges to beta. What I will now do is I will define some new letter. I'm going to call it m, and m is just going to be the maximum of n1 and n2. This is a really common thing that you will see in analysis where you're dealing with two separate sequences and you just want some natural number for which after that you're within a distance of epsilon of both limits. So I'm just going to choose whichever one is bigger, and hopefully we can agree that if I choose that, then what I have is for all n greater than or equal to capital M, the distance between an and alpha is less than epsilon, and the distance between Bn and beta is less than epsilon, because whichever one is bigger, I'm just going to choose that. So whichever one takes longer, let's go with that, and then I'm within a distance of epsilon of both limits. Very common strategy. All right, now let's go back to this line that we had up here, this line here. Because I'm now looking at all n bigger than n, I can say that alpha minus beta is less than or equal to alpha minus an in the modulus. That's the same thing as an minus alpha, right? So if I'm looking at a value of lowercase n bigger than or equal to capital N, that is going to be less than epsilon. So this is less than epsilon, plus I've got an minus bn still, and then this absolute value of bn minus beta, again, for all n bigger than or equal to this capital N, it's definitely going to be less than epsilon. So simplifying this, I have alpha minus beta is less than or equal to 2 epsilon plus an minus bn. And then, because we have said that an is less than or equal to bn, this is less than or equal to just 2 epsilon, because an minus bn is either 0 or a negative number. So what we're left over with is that alpha minus beta is less than or equal to 2 epsilon. And this is good enough. So the lemma says that for all epsilon greater than 0, a minus b needs to be less than or equal to just epsilon. But if you've seen my previous or one of my previous videos about equivalent definitions of convergence, you'll know that this is actually okay. And if you're still not super happy with it, we can slightly adapt the proof in not a crazy way. We can go over to the definitions of convergence here, and we can just say that we're choosing an N1 such that the distance between AN and alpha is less than epsilon over 2. This one we can do epsilon over 2. Again, link in description. We are allowed to do that. It still is equivalent to the normal definition of convergence. And then what we have is that, again, this is less than or equal, or just less than epsilon over 2. This is less than epsilon over 2. So this is epsilon over 2. This is epsilon over 2. That means that's just epsilon. That means that's just epsilon. That means that's just epsilon. So that is completely fine as well. I just don't really like this because a lot of students say, how do you know that you need an epsilon over 2 halfway through the working out? And the answer is you don't, unless you've seen the answer, unless you've seen the big picture already. But I don't really like doing that. So that's why I left the 2 epsilon until the very end. But just in hindsight, you can see that you can do this. You're allowed to, in the definition of convergence, you're allowed to replace the epsilon at the end with epsilon times any real number that is positive, any positive real number. So I'm allowed to replace epsilon with 2 epsilon or epsilon over 2 or whatever I want, as long as it's a positive number. So that's why that works. So I don't want that last step to be confusing. Hold on, you've said alpha minus beta is less than or equal to 2 epsilon. no, that doesn't matter. It's not a problem. So to conclude, remember, by the lemma, that implies that alpha is less than or equal to beta, which is originally what we were trying to show. So just to conclude what we've done there, we have shown that if we've got two sequences, one that converges to alpha, one that converges to beta, so AN and BN respectively, then if AN is less than or equal to BN for every term, then the limit alpha is less than or equal to the limit beta. That is what we have shown. Hopefully that was helpful. If you've got any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. I'll be very happy to get back to you, and I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.